Put two beating hearts together, stitch the seams and pull the levers. Strange desires, sparks and wires. I sign the dotted line and tethered yours to mine. No anesthetic for hearts electric. Parts start to decay when just your shadow half remains. The operation had complications. It could have been firefly. That fire died, dead and gone. I was wrong.
The mighty, the monster, the B7 RS4.
Monsters.
Monsters. The monstrous engine, the fantastic engine, a V8, 6-speed, gorgeous sprint blue, an interior that doesn't really seem to be that age. It's just fantastic. It is so good. It is as good as you think it is. And there's just so many things about this car that doesn't seem like it'll ever happen again. How are we going to get this sort of combination? We've got too much electronics. We've got all this hybridization. I mean, even the design aspects of this car, there's certain parts where you're like, what were they thinking? This is crazy. As I shall now demonstrate with this tape measure. A little bit of distance here, a little bit of length, about 5. No, let's go 10. 10's much better. Okay, for example, the inner bodywork of this car. Normal interior, normal A4, S4, RS4. I mean, look at all this extra body kit. If I take my handy dandy tape measure, it's like over 10 inches. We're like almost a foot of bodywork. I can't really see Audi ever doing something this crazy again. Like, this is so much car. I believe this is a modern day super saloon. Or is it? To help me compare, I'm gonna need a little bit of help. The B8 S4, my German Genesis, and what a start it was. I love this car. In fact, if I were to win the lottery, one of the first things I would do is go buy this car from the current owner. Gorgeous Misano red, peeler wheels, Napa leather interior, the prestige package, sports differential, B&O sound system, and I'm just getting started. Because this car had an absolute peach of an engine. A 3-liter direct injection supercharged V6 making 333 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of velvety torque. The mid-range on this engine, paired with the dual clutch transmission, was just sublime. 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds, I can tell you that's conservative. 13.9 quarter mile at 114 miles per hour, 3,389 pound curb weight. But are these super sedan numbers? Well, not really, right? As good as the engine was, it just didn't get better where you want an engine to be really good, that above 5,500 RPM line. It wasn't that it was bad per se, it was just so good in the mid-range you deeply hoped that it kept getting better as you wound it out. And it often just tended to be a bit flat in the excitement area. Does that mean this was a bad car? Not at all. But the B8 S4 was really more of an A4 Sport than anything else, and it was not a super sedan. But what about this? A 2018 B9 S4 Prestige in brilliant black. This could not be a more different car than the one it replaced. Supercharged V6, gone. 3-liter single VGT turbo. Dual clutch transmission, also gone. ZF 8-speed with torque converter. Reserved exterior, you guessed it, gone. The exterior was much more aggressive on the B9. Reserved interior, also gone. I mean, just look at those seats. They look like they're straight out of an R8. Quiet, reserved demeanor, yeah, that's completely gone too. I mean, just listen to this cold start. As can be expected, power's up, 354 horsepower. Torque is also up, 365 foot-pounds at 1370 RPMs. However, I will say the B8 felt more torquey down low, even though it made less torque on paper. Weight adds up, 3,928 pounds. Some other things are down though, way down. 0 to 60, 4.3 seconds. Quarter mile, 12.8 seconds. And I'll tell you, this car did feel a lot faster in dynamic mode than the B8. But was the B9 better than the B8? And more importantly, to answer the question that we posed, is it a super sedan? Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, sure, with all its glitz and glam, the B9 was a much sportier car. But I don't know if it was better. Sure, the drive select was much broader. In comfort mode, the car was much more comfortable. In dynamic mode, it was much sportier. This was aided by the B9's adaptive suspension, which the B8 did not have. And sure, it was faster and it had more tech, but I'm not sure if it was better. Yeah, the chassis had more grip than the B8, but it didn't handle the bumps as well. Sure, the interior was a lot nicer, even though I love the B8 interior. The B9 had these wonderful massage seats, so that definitely helped, but I don't know if it was put together. I don't know if it was as well made as the B8. Yeah, the engine pulled harder, but I'm not sure it had as much character as the B8. I'm not sure I enjoyed it as much as the B8. The transmission was definitely smoother and more compliant, but it wasn't as exciting as the B8 dual clutch. There's just something about banging through the gears in a dual clutch transmission. The final result though was kind of what we expected. The B8 S4, like we said earlier, was an A4 Sport. But this B9 really was an RS4 Lite. It had a lot more character to it. But the problem is that it wasn't more exciting, which was kind of weird. I found the drives in the B8 more enjoyable. So does that disqualify the S4, the B9 S4, from being a super sedan? Yeah, I think it probably does, right? If it's not as exciting as slower cars, it's probably not as super as we'd like it to be. So we've determined so far that B7 RS4, which is my handy dandy easel that I stole from my 2-year-old, is a modern super sedan. B8 S4 has the charisma, but it lacks the performance, it lacks the excitement. B9 S4 has the performance, but doesn't really have the charisma. But let's put it to a chart. I've chosen 7 different categories that I feel makes a modern super sedan. And we're gonna score these 3 cars against each other. First place gets 3 points, second place gets 2 points, and third place gets 1 point. Now I've thought through these categories, I kind of know where I'm gonna score them, but I don't know what the totals are gonna be, so we're gonna find out together. So, let's get started. Exterior. Now, I know that we're dealing with an RS versus 2 S's, but this RS car is over 10 years old when the B9 came out, so I think it's probably fair. So, starting with exterior. Third place, B9 S4. It's a good looking car, especially in the black that I had. It's not a great looking car. Well, it's not an amazing looking car. I think it's third place. Second place, the B8. I still love that car. Very low key, very subtle, but still a very good looking car. And I know, we're already getting ahead of ourselves, but this is the best looking car of the three. It looks the best even now, even though it's the oldest, so RS4 gets 3 points. How about interior? Well, I thought a long time about this, and there was a lot of different ways I could go, but I went this way. Third place, B8. Love that interior, but it's just a little dull. Not that it's bad, it's just, when we're talking about super sedans, it probably should be a little more exciting. I really wanted to give the RS4 first place because I love this interior. I still think it looks fantastic. Everyone who gets in it says it looks modern. But then I'd be saying that in 15 years, Audi hasn't made a better interior than this. And I don't know if that's true. I think the B9 is actually a fantastic interior. So we're going to give second place to the RS4, first place to the B9 S4. What about powertrain? This is talking about the engine and transmission. Third place, B9 S4. Love it. It's really good. Got some kick, but it wasn't as special as the other two. B8 comes in second place. Really, if this RS4 had that B8 dual clutch, I think I would probably like it even more. But really, I think this RS4 still has the best powertrain. It's close. I think the B8 is really, really good. I know that maybe is a bit of hearsay, but that's my thought. All right, chassis. So this is handling and steering combined. Third place, B8. It's good, just not great. It actually, I think the B8 has better steering than the B9, but I don't think it handles or gripped as well. So we're gonna give second place to the B9. The B7, gets first place. The steering makes this car. It still handles fantastic. It handles better than the other two. It rides as good as the B8, rides better than the B9. But the overall steering and handling of the RS4 is just superior. What about daily drivability? In a super sedan, you still kind of need some dailiness to it, right? And honestly, you can daily all these cars. This is really, really close, so we're kind of splitting hairs here. But I think I'm probably going to have to give third place to the RS4. Stick shift, so if you're in lots of traffic, it's more to run maintenance cost-wise, and the fuel economy. I drove it for a half a tank before I filled it up today, as gentle as I could, and I still got 17 miles to the gallon, so not great there, no matter what. Second place, I think, is going to go to the B8. The B9 is just more modern, it's more configurable, I think it's more daily, so we're going to give 3 points to them. What about desirability? Like, when you talk about cars in the car world, you know, where does that fit? Yeah, no one really seems to love the B9 that much. I'm going to give second place to the B8 because it's got to go somewhere. Obviously, the RS4 is the most desirable of the three. And finally, what about performance? This kind of like this excitement. Do I love it? Do I want to go in and give it a drive? This is hard for me. I think I'll give last place to the B9. I love that car. It was pretty rare that I went and grabbed the keys and went for a drive. I definitely did that more in the B8. I owned the B9 a lot shorter, so maybe that's part of it, but obviously it's going to go to the RS4. So let's add them up. 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 points to the B9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for the B8. 5, 8, 11, 12, that's 18. 18. So again, I didn't know how this was going to come out, and we got a winner. B7 RS4. Modern super sedan. Other two cars, like I said, very different cars. Both good, I like them both, but really just don't have this specialness. And it's probably kind of by design, right? This RS thing right here, that should mean something, and in this case, it does. So, how do we wrap up this video? How do we wrap up this RS4? Obviously, we got to go for another drive. So, we're at the end.